Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Beyond the Cage. I'm your host, Jim Gramm, joined by Billy Brant and Colin Camper. On this week's show, jam-packed with action as we are recapping Glory 27, UFC London, and Bellator 150. We're also going to do a quick preview of Bellator 151, as well as a picking segment of UFC 196. This weekend, Nate Diaz against Conor McGregor for the main event. Holly Holm against Miesha Tate for the Women's Bantamweight Championship of the World. As I said, I'm your host, Jim Gramm. You can follow me on Twitter at Jim Gramm. Billy Brandt's next to me. You can follow him on Twitter at WBrand21. And our Facebook manager, facebook.com/Beyond the Cage podcast. Like it today, Colin Camper. And how's it going today, gentlemen?
Not bad. I'm just admiring how deep this V is on Billy Jack right now.
No comments.
Now, of course, as you saw on our Facebook page, again, I'll plug it again, facebook.com/Beyond the Cage podcast, as well as my Twitter/Instagram feed at Jim Gramm. We were in attendance for Glory 27 just outside of Chicago in Hoffman Estates at the Sears Center, and we got to take part and cover Glory 27. And it was a fantastic event. As fans of the show know, we have covered several MMA events, but this is our first kickboxing event and first Glory kickboxing event, which now is the premier organization in the world for kickboxing. And just before we get kind of into the particulars of what took place at Glory 27, if you haven't seen it, check it out. I believe you can catch the replay on ESPN2 if you haven't recorded. Also, it should be available, I think, is it about a week after that you can get it on ESPN3?
I'm pretty sure about a week after. I know the Super Fight series is already up.
That's on Fight Pass.
Yeah, that's up on there.
That you can get whenever. But the main card featuring Simon Marcus against Artem Levin, I believe, I want to say a week. So you got pretty much if you have a internet connection, you can get ESPN3 because it just goes by your provider. You don't need actually to have ESPN or a cable to have it. So as long as you got internet, you can get ESPN3. So definitely check out Glory. Main card, of course, as Colin said, the undercard or the Super Fight Series is what they call their undercard, will be available on the UFC Fight Pass, which features Joe Schilling, pretty much the top fighter not to be a champion in Glory right now. And of course, we're looking to get some fighter interviews as well. We're trying to get Joe Schilling, Simon Marcus, and Dustin Jacoby all on the program to talk about their victories at Glory 27. But just looking at the event as a whole, gentlemen, what were your thoughts on the whole event for Glory 27?
First, I guess we'll work our way up, but we'll say it's definitely interesting that event. Some things you probably haven't seen, some great knockouts, some fighters leave the ring, but overall, it just kind of brought, it was a good experience. To say people should go check out these Glory types. You get the ring, it's a total different feel from MMA, UFC. Just a lot of cool stuff they got going on there, man. It's really good for this event.
Yeah, middleweight's going to be heated up for the next few months, possibly a year, with a lot of dust from everything going on. But the Super Fight Series is also a really fantastic idea. It was actually basically two main event cards almost back-to-back.
And really, there was only one fight I would say that was bad. There was really only one fight I was like, that one wasn't that good. But almost all the fights were great here for Glory 27. We had a great experience. Hopefully, next time they come back to the U.S. as their next events
Detroit.
Will be, as CEO John Franklin will get to the press conference, but he's a Detroit native, so he mentioned coming here to the Motor City for an event. So that would be awesome in 2016. Of course, their next two events in Paris and in Copenhagen. So we won't be able to cover those ones for you guys, but those are great events, and those are both coming up sooner rather than later. Looking at the Super Fight Series, a lot of studded names, of course, highlighted by Joe Schilling, as we mentioned, probably the best Glory fighter not to hold one of their championship belts. He took on 10th rated Glory middleweight Mike Lemaire. And boy, I know Schilling took this fight on 12 days notice, but Lemaire, I don't know if it was because of the short notice or maybe he was intimidated by Joe Schilling and how good he is or his power, but I felt like Michael Lemaire didn't really show up in this fight, and it really was allowed Joe Schilling to do whatever he wanted to do in this fight.
Yeah, Lemaire kind of disappointed me because you got this chance to take on a guy like Joe Schilling. Didn't really amount to much, and even Joe Schilling, I don't want to say I'm both disappointed. It was still a good fight, but Joe Schilling didn't even – I get it. He took the fight late notice, so I guess that's probably a huge factor, and he still was able to do enough and get by and win, but I expected a lot more for Lemaire in this fight. You got a guy like Joe Schilling on 12 days notice, or you got to come after him here. There was not much offense at all.
Yeah, Joe Schilling just seemed like he didn't really want to be at the event, in my opinion. He seemed like kind of, collar up, hat down, walking, out backstage.
That he was above Lemieux.
Yeah, I feel like that might have been his attitude going into it, and he's really just there just to do Glory a favor, kind of thing.
Finish out that contract.
Yeah, but Lemaire just had as good a chance as any I think he would have had going into this fight. I mean, preparing for Joe Schilling when with your record, I mean, there's not much else in your camp you're going to do for a guy with such experience compared to you going in. So, I mean, Lemaire didn't get knocked out, so I mean, at least he's not like unconscious. But yeah, so I mean, that the fight was good, but it's just almost like a clinic from Schilling. So.
The other winners on the Super Fight Series, big win there for Mr. Green, better known as Go Green, as some of the crowd, Casey Green. And this dude at welterweight, I mean, he is huge, especially compared to his opponent, Morales. And I believe Green, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he's fought a lot in the middleweight division. In fact, he's taken on Justin Jacoby and Mike Lemieux. But him at welterweight, man, if he can get on a run here, he could capture the Glory welterweight title because this dude is huge in this weight class.
Yeah, I actually like that fight as a good opening to the Super Fight Series event. Morales looked really quick. I feel like the footwork from Morales is probably a little bit better, but Green just put it out there. I mean, he's a tough dude, and it was kind of a mean fight. And watching it, I feel like there's a lot Green can. I won't say so much as improve because he's really well rounded, but I think definitely it's just going to get better from him. Yeah,
I mean, Green. I don't know if I was impressed in him because I think I don't want to say he was the worst fighter in this fight, but definitely the size was huge for him. I mean, just a clear difference. And not only that, it was just this grit of coming forward and really going after it. But it was a good fight for him. And I do think, man, if he keeps getting his skills up a little more to par, the dude has the size to just go ahead and do it. Damage in this division,
because that was apparent, like you said, Colin, the footwork and probably speed and maybe even say technical skill belonged to Morales, but he felt a couple of those shots by Casey Green, I think, towards the end of the first, and that really changed the momentum in the fight. And you could tell rounds 2 and 3, Green was able to kind of keep it at a slower pace and put those power shots. And Morales, he was starting to feel it by the third round. And even though his shots were still fast, they were not coming nearly as often like they were in the first. The other fight, we can see we got Richard Abraham. He was kind of the hometown guy, very decorated kind of amateur, lower-ranked kickboxer. He took on Pavel Jacek from Poland. A very strong performance by him. I thought Pavel, he held up, man. Abraham threw everything but the kitchen sink at him. I mean, the overhand right and the left hook to the body was the combination Abraham was using, and Jacek had no answer for that. And Abraham gets his first win in Glory in the process.
Yeah, Abraham, man, didn't really know much about him going in, but the crowd was there for this dude, and he showed up, a fight for the fans, and just really put a beating on. I mean, I don't know how he held up, but he really did. Like you said, he threw everything at him, and I'm looking forward to this guy in the future. He really brings it, and don't know much about him besides that, but he came in there and put a clinic on.
Yeah, no, I thought Pavel might have had it a little bit better just out of experience and everything, but Abraham just rode off the crowd support, I think, in this fight. I mean, he came out there and just dominating would be like the wrong term to use, but it was such like a good fight for him that it almost seemed like he was just naturally ready for it.
I think Abraham Green would be a good matchup.
More than likely, we could probably even see it happen, especially with how well Abraham did.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Also, it didn't last very long, but you probably saw the replays on ESPN and everyone's Twitter as Innocente made his Glory debut. And, boy, he did not disappoint as he was able to win by spinning back heel kick just like 20 seconds into the first round to knock out Demorio Dennis. And what a Glory debut. You really can't get much better than that.
Yeah, this guy comes into Glory and probably puts down, I don't want to say the best, at least for me live, it was probably one of the best knockouts I've ever seen live. I mean, it was just nasty. You hear it and you see him drop. And when he came on that stretch, I was really honestly worried for him. I mean, it landed hard. And you can't make a better debut. So I'm only assuming a big fight for him soon. Obviously, they have to work him in. We talked about the
we talked at the
conference.
press conference to the head matchmaker for Gloria. I kind of mentioned, does this kind of move him up higher in the rankings? And I said maybe take on someone like Anderson Silva, who would get to just next. And they're like, well, maybe he's not one fight away, maybe 2 or 3. So they're going to gauge how they was, because as exciting as they was, that's the only technique they've seen from him in Glory is one spinning kick. So they don't want to all of a sudden, he's taking on Rico Van Hoven.
Right. Yeah, it was a pretty impressive fight, especially with how big the guys are. To see someone fall that hard and throw like a technique that high was intense. But yeah, title talks and everything. I mean, you still got a little bit more, especially with their announced signing.
It was a Lucan.
The name escapes me right now. I wrote it down. I accidentally left it at home. But he's pretty much the title prospect right now for heavyweight for them. So,
well, I mean, yeah, you got to definitely give him a few more fights, just because being your debut and you land that, it's an amazing debut, but also could be a fluke. You could have caught him perfect, so you got to see a little more out of him. But definitely, if he comes away with one more impressive victory, I won't be surprised if he's fast-tracked right to the top.
And speaking of the aforementioned Anderson Silva, using amazing leg kicks to take out another Green. No, not the same Green who just fought. It wasn't a tournament. But instead he was able to defeat Maurice Green. And Anderson Silva is one of those guys who, he's had his chance at the top. He's still came into this fight ranked 5 in Glory's heavyweight division. Of course, they're going to have a heavyweight contender tournament coming up. He's not in it, but I think that if he can get maybe that the new big signing they have, maybe he factors in, but he only may be one fight away from trying to get back to the top of Glory.
Yeah, I got confused. You said he used to be at the top. I thought we were talking about the London fight for a second. No, but yeah, he went out there and he made a stand with those leg kicks. I mean, what did he get? 3 knockdowns off leg kicks? Or was it 2?
3 or 4. 3 for sure. 3 for sure. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think 4 would have finished him, but I think he had 2 in one round, and then one I think in another. But I think you needed 4. Because it wasn't a tournament. If it was a tournament, like we'll get to sooner, he would have knocked. It would have been a TKO.
Yeah, so it was pretty.
It was still pretty brutal.
Yeah, it was nasty, and you see that dude limping around the arena all night. So it was an impressive win by him, and like you said, if one more, I'm surprised he didn't slide into that tournament, honestly, but he's definitely really close to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably just an expected win for Braddock, but good heart on Maurice, because I thought he was out after he took the knee the first time. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know. Does take kicks from that big of a dude consistently over and over for like that for 12 minutes? That's a tough guy. I take the first kick and I'm going home.
Right. All right, let's get to our next fight of the evening, which turned into the main card on ESPN. It started with the middleweight tournament. We'll talk about the tournament as a whole. The 4 participants in the middleweight division, with the winner earning a shot at the Glory middleweight title. Wayne Barrett took on Rob Thomas, and then we had Dustin Jacoby. I believe it was Dwayne Robertson. Am I getting that? Roberson? Carl Roberson. My apologies. Were the 4 participants there, and my pick going into it was Dustin Jacoby. I thought that training in Denver, and he would be the most conditioned guy for this, and that's kind of one thing you need in these tournaments is attrition, because potentially you go 6 rounds. That's even more than a championship fight. So I think it's a real accomplishment to be able to do that. And the one fight I was mentioning that wasn't that great was the first one. That was Wayne Barrett against Rob Thomas. I don't know if both guys were saving gas for the final, but to me, you got to get to the final first. And I think neither guy was really wanted to overextend themselves, but Barrett was doing a little more in that. I think by the time it hit round 3, Thomas kind of sensed that he needed that round. He started to amp it up, but it wasn't enough to get him into the final.
Yeah, I feel like actually Barrett kind of put himself out there really hard in that first round to make sure he advanced. I mean, I think in his mind, he probably knew Jacoby was going to get the advancement. Because Jacoby's fantastic, and Wayne Barrett probably wanted that rematch, but I don't know. I feel like he overextended and just put way too much energy into that first round of the tournament for him. I mean, he got the win, but I mean, extending later tonight, we'll talk about how that went down for him. But I think against someone like Emerson, think he could have pulled it back a little. I mean, he kind of went pretty hard, and Emerson didn't really seem to have an answer for anything he's going with. So
Yeah, Emerson didn't know much, but he had some good support there in the
Thomas,
crowd.
pardon me, correct me. I said Emerson. I meant Thomas.
I repeated you too, no, but I expected a little more from this fight. I almost think Bear maybe just played it way too safe. I mean, it probably gets in your head a lot going into these tournaments. I don't know for sure, but I got to assume that's huge going in. And then, like you brought up, knowing Jacoby potentially is another loss he already has. So there's a lot in his mind going into this, and I think he just played it a little too safe. That being said, he still gets by, but it's nothing too impressive. And Jacoby, man, I don't know what to say about that dude.
Yeah, he looked really good in his tournaments, well, both fights, but we'll start first with his semifinal matchup against Carl Roberson. And Roberson was definitely probably everyone's not pick. No offense to Roberson, but he was the least known out of these guys, having never fought in Glory before, so that kind of didn't make him a favorite a lot of people's eyes, and taking on, you can make arguably the best guy in these four in Dustin Jacoby. And I thought Roberson held up very well, but you could tell the power, that knockout power that Dustin Jacoby has, was really a big difference. And of course, he was able to knock him down not just once, but twice to give him, again, in the tournaments, you just got to knock him down twice in one round to get the win. And that's what Dustin Jacoby was able to do, courtesy of his straight right.
Yeah, no, I mean, there ain't much to say here. This is kind of as expected out of Jacoby. I mean, whether it's a decision or a knockout, we kind of just expect him. He's pretty familiar with the tournament format and everything. He knows how these things run. So, I mean, he came out there and he did what he does.
I don't know how Jacoby does it, because every time, like by that third, I'm like, all right, it just comes a decision, and he gets it done, man. He's a finisher.
And he's a big dude for the weight class. I'm not sure exactly how much weight he cuts to make 187, but he's a fairly big dude for the weight class. So going into the finals, we have Barrett, Jacoby 2. These guys just fought a couple months ago in Jacoby's hometown of Denver, Colorado at Glory 24, with Jacoby being victorious. This time around, Jacoby, he brought that same Chris Wright into the final, and Barrett, I thought, performed better than he did in a semifinal, but it still was enough. He was still behind, not throwing as much in Jacoby, and also something that may have affected his lack of output in the semifinal. Of course, one of the reasons why he got knocked out in the final, he was holding his shoulder. Maybe he was already having shoulder problems in that semifinal, but didn't want to pull out of the tournament, didn't want to pull out of a chance to get a shot at the Glory Middleweight Championship, so he fought on anyway, and maybe that could be for the lack of output. And of course, I think it affected him in the final against Justin Jacoby, who knocked him down twice, and both times it was like a delayed reaction from the right. And we asked Dustin after the fight if he thought that was odd, like, you hit him, and did you expect him to go? And he's like, I knew I hit him hard both times, but I didn't think he was going to fall, and then he did. And he's like, I'm just as surprised as you. He's like, I could tell you I hit him hard, but beyond that, he goes, then he was holding the shoulder, and he goes, hey, I got the win, but he's like, I was shocked.
Yeah, the last one was definitely kind of strange, because I mean, it was a clean shot in the chin, delayed reaction, goes down, but then he's immediately pointing at his shoulder. So I don't really understand how it happened either way, but not taking away anything from Jacoby. I mean, Barrett goes out there and puts his fight on. Jacoby gets it done again and gets the finish.
Yeah, no, I mean, I kind of picked it too. 2-0 knockouts, that night. But being said, Jacoby's got a lot in front of him right now with middleweight division, and I think right there, the tournament, even though it's a big win for him, I mean, these were fights that he probably would have beat any three of these guys that night for sure. I mean, it first time him and Barrett fought, he knocked him out in the third. This time he knocked him out in the second. So it's like, Jacoby's there. He's the most experienced guy out of the four. I don't want to say it's a gimme for him, because any night could be not your night,
especially with a tournament.
Yeah, and especially in kickboxing where it's just all straight up strikes. I mean, you never know what you're going to take. So, but for him, it was a good win for him to take home the gold and everything. He seemed pretty happy to have another trophy. So,
yeah, and that really, like we said, we'll talk about the middleweight title picture going with this and what we experienced at the Glory 27 post-fight press conference. We asked about Joe Schilling. Of course, we asked about Dustin Jacoby. We asked about Artem Levin. And Glory, as of right now, seemed open to a lot of different possibilities. Of course, Joe Schilling is going to do some stuff with Bellator MMA and Bellator kickboxing. Glory acknowledged that. but they also acknowledge that they want to keep Joe Schilling. They want to keep him under a Glory contract, but they have no problem with him doing Bellator stuff or really any of their fighters kickboxing in other organizations. They know they can only do so many fights, and if guys want to fight 6 times a year, that might not be in the plans for Glory. So they have no problem with Joe Schilling going and seeking, more fights and more money. But at the end of the day, I think they do want to keep him, and things are still negotiating. And what may be a key of getting Joe Schilling to stay for Glory for a little bit longer may be his next fight being a shot at the middleweight championship, and that may put Jacoby on ice a little bit, having earned a title shot by winning this tournament.
Yeah, it's tough for anyone in the title picture right now where they're going to be. But I mean, it's good for Glory because they're a business first and foremost as well. And right now, as a businessman, you want to have options. It's always good to have options for anything you can do. I mean, they're bringing the sport to so many people, and what would be best for fans, draw. They're still trying to get their foothold and things going on. And right now, Joe Schilling title fight would probably do him a lot better than Justin Jacoby Marcus, which is no offense to Jacoby. He's a fantastic fighter. But Joe Schilling undeniably has that number one
And,
draw.
of course, he was supposed to already have a title shot at Glory 24 before Levin pulled out. So it's not like Joe Schilling hasn't earned a shot at the middleweight championship. And you also hold the fact he has a win over Levin and he has a win over Marcus. He has wins over both guys.
Yeah, I think it's kind of...
And a win over Jacoby, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't want to say it's definite, but I think if they do sign Schilling, that's what they'll go with. I mean, there's a lot of options they could do. Honestly, I mean, we'll get to in a minute, but depending on Levin's future, they could do that Levin fight again if you want to give Jacoby the first shot and just kind of build it up a little bit longer. But I definitely, and for the fans, Joe Schilling's the next guy by far if they sign him. That's a big if. If not, though, the Jacoby fight will still be an exciting matchup, but just for overall.
All right, the co-main event of the evening, Giga Chikadze took on Kevin Van Nostrand, undefeated in his career, was 2-0 in Glory coming in. This was in the officially the the featherweight weight class. I don't know why they listed it as lightweight on the website, but this is featherweight fight, 143. And boy, just this to me was fight of the night. I thought both guys just went hard. And Van Nostrand, I believe, took this fight a little bit of a short notice. Probably the best guy he's ever taken on in Giga. And boy, he did not disappoint. I mean, Giga even said in the press conference after the fight, saying, he expected maybe a little more easing into things, but Van Nostrand did not do that at all. It just came right after Giga. I thought caught him by surprise. And I think he got that first round. In the second round, he started off very strong and then started to slow a bit as Giga just kind of kept hanging around. And then he really put him on him towards the end of the third. By the second, I think the accumulated shots and the pace that Van Nostrand was trying to set kind of failed him a little bit. And Giga, the veteran, was able to capitalize, take the third round, and end up taking a unanimous decision and puts himself very close to a featherweight shot. Of course, we know, as I mentioned, and he brought it up in the press conference too, he thinks the Jaguar is going to take the title. So there's a very good chance we see Giga against the Jaguar coming up later here in 2016.
What a matchup that'd be. But yeah, for this fight, kind of exactly how you said. But when I was watching, I'm like, man, this is like a video game. Like the strikes, the output was just nonstop. But the difference was Van Nostrand kind of fell on that pace. He did just enough, just consistent, man. He stayed there, kept fighting his range, didn't outdo it enough. He probably lost that first round, but then you take the next two. And I mean, oh man, that matchup will be so good if he gets him. So I'm excited for really both these guys. Van Nostrand takes a loss, but
he's an up-and-comer.
Yeah.
I mean, this was only his 13th professional fight, Glory debut, short notice.
Exactly, and that dude looked very good, put on a great fight, and I can't wait to see more of both of them.
Just before we get to Colin, not to cut you off, but Giga actually, to go back into this point in Van Nostrand's onslaught, which was pretty much everything, he got a good knee to the body, actually broke a rib of Giga during this fight. So Giga actually continued with a broken rib. I'm not sure when it happened. He wasn't I think he said round 2. I thought he said. I think that's when he caught him.
Round 2.
But the fact he was able to still continue with a broken rib also adds to his detriment as a fighter.
Yeah, he said it so nonchalantly too. Because when we walked up to speak to him, he said, "Yeah, I broke my rib," but then he just like casually passed it. I'm like, "Dude, a broken rib hurts."
You should tell his training partner Dos Anjos to just fight with a broken foot, right?
Right.
I fought with a broken rib. You can fight with a broken foot.
Come on, But yeah, speaking to him, I asked him, because there was a feasible chance that he could have been down 2 rounds going into the third, just because the style of the first 2 rounds was so back and forth. I didn't even write anything down other than probably the knee and then asking him the questions. That fight was just so absolutely insane that first 2 rounds were really a toss-up for me. But in the third round, he clearly shined. It was better. And he said that he just, going into the fight and everything, he thought it'd be a little bit slower pace, like you mentioned, and he didn't expect Bannistrand just to come out banging just immediately. So he's like, "But all right, this is what we're gonna do." And Giga just managed to just be able to do that a lot longer than Bannistrand. And third round, he took it. Second round, he took it. I think the first went to Bannistrand. I think it was a 29-28, or not 29-28, but
Yeah, it was.
yeah, was it 29? Yeah, so
29. Well, yeah, the official ending of the fight was 2 29-28s and then 130-27 somehow.
So he probably
Giga.
So he probably took the first round, but even then, because of how close it was, I mean, that's the thing. You could argue it either way. But yeah, both guys came out. They just do it out there. Giga could be up for the title shot. Bannistrand could easily bounce back. So
Giga looked like a mini Gegard, just how he physically looks.
And he acts like one.
in the post fight, he's just like Gegard, just chilling,
he's just
talking.
really chill, relaxing.
Except for actually in the recent Gegard at that latest press conference, he's stepping up.
We'll talk about that.
All right, the main event was good, but it was good because it was kind of bad, kind of bizarre, kind of insane, crazy. I haven't been watching the Glory that long, as most fans know, maybe 6 months or so, but you add in, all the MMA fights I've seen and other amateur and local and other, kickboxing stuff and martial arts events. I've never seen anything like this. I mean, I've seen fights where 2 guys hate each other, but in the way they were fighting, it seemed apparent. Like, if you knew nothing about Simon Marcus and Artem Levy, you didn't know that this was the third fight, that their last fight ended in a controversial draw for the title and all this stuff, and it was one of Marcus's first loss ever in kickboxing. If you didn't know all that, you could just feel the tension between these 2 gentlemen when they stepped inside the Glory ring at the Sears Center, and a lot of clinching, especially from Levin. Did not expect that, considering Marcus's background in actual Thai boxing. So a lot of clinching, a lot of throwing around and takedowns and leg sweeps. In fact, Marcus actually threw Levin out of the ring at one point in the second round. You have Levin complaining that Marcus is holding on, and the ref's like, "No, you're holding on too long." There's a point taken away in the second round. Levin was not happy with it. He's kind of beside himself. He's not happy with the referee, and Marcus just comes over and hits him. The fight was on, and Marcus kind of gets on him a little bit. The round ends. Round 3 starts, a lot more of the same, more clinching and stuff. You could feel the hate, and then at one point, Levin's still complaining to the referee, and then finally Levin gets another point taken away, and at that point he gets so fed up that he just walks out of the ring and basically quits the fight, which ends as a disqualification. And because of that, Simon Marcus gets the win and becomes the Glory Middleweight Championship of the world, champion of the world, and just a crazy turn of events, but nonetheless deserved for Simon Marcus to now be a Glory champion.
Yeah, this might have been the best, most exciting fight I've ever seen in the worst way possible. Like, everything about it was terrible, but it made it almost so exciting. But I don't even want to take credit for this. I've seen someone tweet it, but it said, if you want to take 2 world-class kickboxers and make them look like street fighters, put Levin against Marcus. I mean, it absolutely just looked like it was more just they hate each other, they want to throw, but Levin induced the clinch, and then the first time they take the point, he's about to quit. And then luckily Marcus threw that punch, because if not, we would have lost another round or 2 of actual fighting. So he threw it, and then Levin kind of just gets back in fight mode and goes to it. It brings a lot of questions for Levin's future now. I guess I'll start with Marcus, because this made me a fan of him, because he wanted to keep fighting. It didn't matter. He was trying to engage the fight, not trying to clinch up. So I'm excited for all his matchups next. Great fighter. For Levin, I've never seen something like this. As an organization, I know we talked to him a little about it, and they're like, oh, we got to figure out from here. But what do you do with him after this?
It's hard to say just cut him. It really is.
Because he's top guy.
But something has to be done about it. They got to sit him down and say, look, if you're going to act like this, we can no longer have you as a fighter. We don't want to do that, but you can't walk out of a fight like this.
Champion.
This has never happened ever before in anything.
Out of a champion.
Especially in a championship fight, a big time fight that they're selling, and they're going to have to have a serious talk from him. I mean, hopefully he comes back. I'd still like to see. I mean, there's a lot of good fights for him to have, but I guess the worst case scenario would be that he's so offended by this that he just retires from the sport. I mean, there could be a case where he's just like, I'm just not going to fight anymore.
It seemed like his team in the back had a big problem with Glory. They kept saying it was like them. And you hear the guys talking like, we're not the refs, we're not the commission.
It was the International Kickboxing is the one that decides the referees.
So this might leave a perfect opening for Bellator's kickboxing to say, hey, come to us. I don't know if they have a tip with Glory, so you might see Levin again over there.
And then we can see Joe Schilling and Levin over there. So, I don't know. If I wanted to watch a kid throw a tantrum, I would have stayed at home with my daughter. Like, let's be real for a second. Like, coming into it, I'm like, you know what? There's a lot of beef going on, but I'm going to side with the champ and everything just because, whatever. Yeah, siding with the champ. The champ's a champ for a reason. That's not disputing against Marcus. I thought they were both pretty even fighters going in. I just picked one. And then he just started tomfooling around. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Forget this. Marcus is trying to engage. He's pulling his hands out of the clinch, putting his arms out and everything. It's like, I'm going to side with this dude over here because forget this. I was a purely emotional, just in my pick for Levin and Marcus going into it because I thought either way, any night, it could go anyway, which way. Being said, I'm much more happier with a disqualification and Marcus getting the belt because this dude just acts like a champ. In the Kep press conference, he had this demeanor and aura of a champ. He's just confident. He's just ready to win. He lives in Toronto, so we'll see a lot more fights in the Midwest. So it's just like this dude probably is championship material and deserves it.
And he was down to fight everybody too, coming up for his first title defense.
And it's and Levin with pulling out of his last fight and everything, and then his management throwing a fit and stuff. I'm just like, dude, just shut your mouth. Like, you're gonna throw a fit about everything. You're gonna act like a baby. You quit twice in one fight. All right, you got sucker punched the first time for it. I wish you got soccer kicked and sucker kicked the third time because you don't deserve it. I thought he was about to punch the ref out for a second because the way he's grabbing on. It was kind of humiliating. As a media member, I should control my emotions, but at the event there, I was so upset about it. I had to stand up and just boo the man because, although we have passed the event to promote the sport, there are folks there who paid money, who flew out on plane tickets, who traveled, hundreds of miles to watch these two great fighters take it out. And this dude wanted to throw a fit for his own actions. He was choosing. It's not like Marcus was clinching the whole time and Levin was frustrated with Marcus. Levin chose to clinch the entire time because apparently he didn't want to eat any shots from Marcus. So he would throw a punch and clinch. And every time he got a point taken away, he would throw a fit. Like he's surprised. Well, what do you think?
Well, I think even if you think you're not in the wrong, in my eyes, he's just getting points deducted. It's not really like it's going to change the scoring cards, but he's not taking an unfair beating if he still thinks Strong's fight. So why not just fight it out, finish it, and then contest it after? If you have a problem, file formal complaints. And do
Here's the thing:
that.
if he had 3 rounds still to either finish the fight, win a decision, or lose a decision. If he lost a decision, he more than likely probably would have gotten a rematch.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You file a complaint. You say, hey, look at the scorecards. If the points weren't deducted, I won.
Even if he didn't want to throw, even if he didn't even file a complaint, even if he lost it without any point deduction and everything, and he just didn't throw a fit, even if he lost a legitimate decision to Marcus, because of how well that next fight would have sold, he probably would have gotten a rematch. Yeah, now, I don't even know because... he
might not even still be in the organization.
He might not be even cordial with the organization. They were being polite about it, saying, well, we'll see what's up. But, after the dust settles and stuff and everything, you'll see how things react. He might have blew his wad there and just, screwed it up for himself. So it's just, you expect more out of a professional. I understand it means a lot to you, and there's a lot on the line, and I've never been in that position, and I have really no say in anything. But as a fan of the sport, and I'm speaking now on the behalf of hundreds of thousands of fans of the sport and an organization, probably conduct yourself like an adult. You signed a contract. A contract is something that's brought to the professional world for a reason. Abide by it. Don't play games and don't throw a fit.
All right, real quickly before we move on to Bellator, Glory had some big news that announced during the fight. Of course, as we mentioned, heavyweight tournament will be coming to Denmark in Copenhagen Saturday, April 16th. It will also feature a title fight for the main event as Nicky Holtzkin will put his title on the line once again as he will take on Yonan Kongolo, who's currently ranked number 4 in the world. They haven't announced the 4 participants for the Glory heavyweight tournament, but maybe maybe Anderson Silva that we saw here at Glory 27 is one of those gentlemen. And of course, that will determine the next contender for currently Rico Verhoeven, who is set to defend his title in just 12 days in Paris for Glory 28, which is a stacked card for Glory. And just looking a little bit at that card, gentlemen, this will continue along with their re-signing and extension with ESPN, which is now a multi-year deal to be on ESPN 3 as well as ESPN 2. And they also entered, starting with this event at Glory 27, a multi-year agreement with the UFC to show the Super Fight Series. Officially 11 fights, including 3 World Championships will be decided. Of course, the main event, as I mentioned, Verhoeven will defend his heavyweight title once again as he takes on Brestovic from Croatia. Also, Gronhart comes back on the card just off his loss in the welterweight division, fresh off his loss in the lightweight division. Sitsong Piong will also return Flora Gore as well. And then the Super Fight Series, that's where we're going to see 2 more title fights. As we mentioned, current Glory champ Adam Chuck will take on the Jaguar Armrani for the featherweight championship. I'm very excited for that one. And then for the lightweight championship, we're going to have Vakotov from Russia take on the Brazilian Calvari.
If Glory keeps this up, we're going to be a kickboxing only podcast in about 2 months.
Hey, I might become a kickboxer in like 2 hours. Like, this is intense.
Go take out your beef with Levin, man.
Right, exactly.
Clinch
Like,
up on him.
me and him will settle it right now at a catch weight of like 230, because that's where I'm at. No, yeah, Glory's doing the right thing right now. They're getting a lot of support from where they need it, Zuffa, ESPN, and like you said, this is the way they need to do things. At least for the moment, it's just put out a bunch of high quality fights up and down the card. Even pulling these local fighters for the local undercards is doing them good, because those fights are even actually really good. But until they get like a really strong footing, pump out the work. I'm not going to complain at all whatsoever. I'll drive out to any event that's nearby.
Yeah, just to kind of touch back on it one more time, because it's a Glory thing, I just want to say, being my first time personally attending the event, I was blown away. I mean, the production, everything about it,
Smooth.
all the fights were amazing. Everything's smooth. Crowd's good. Everything's taken care of. I definitely recommend it. And I personally will be trying to go to any event I can. It was a great experience.
Definitely.
And if you haven't, try to make your way out and enjoy one, because it's definitely a different experience.
Bellator 150 took place the same time as Glory, but they were in the Kansas Star Arena in Mulvane, Kansas. Unfortunately, this event not as good as it could have been. Once again, Dantes and Galvo gets canceled this time because of Galvo. I'm hoping maybe they reschedule it for the Phil Davis King Mo card in San Jose, because of course that's a non-title main event. But we'll see, because it seemed like Galvo was just simply sick. It wasn't actually like a physical injury. So that's why I'm hoping that gets scheduled, and I think that would be the perfect opening, considering their next couple of fights might be too close, and I think already maybe have some title stuff going along. Anyways, the action that did took place, Lena Ochnikova. She was she looks like a Maxim model or something when she's not in full fight gear, but she was the favorite coming into this one with a record of 10-3, 8 of 10 by submission, taking on, as they brought up several times on the broadcast, mother of 2, Rebecca Ruth. Not a Maxim model, but still very tough in her own right, coming into the fight with a record of 5-1, and of course, a lot older as well. 37, 5 of 6 fights, winning by knockout. But I thought this was the best fight of the evening, to be honest. These two ladies just kept on throwing each other, and I think the lack of maybe a little lack of striking skills, and I also think the size difference. Ruth is a really big 125er, and I think Lena hasn't faced anyone as big as Ruth before in her career, and she kind of got, as they said in the broadcast, woman handled in this one.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. I haven't had a chance to actually fully go over the entire event, just with how hectic the weekend has been. I did a lot of
but I had to highlight that fight. That was incredible.
Definitely, I heard about it, and it's a good thing to bring it up. I caught the highlights on some of the later fights. But yeah, the thing is, it's just like Bellator's, they got to put their card together. I don't want to say this is like a horrible card, because I heard some of the fights are pretty decent, but at the same time, it's just like, man, dude, they're having a rough time after that Kimbo Dada mess, which we're still hearing about Dada in the hospital. And now it's like, you have a main event pull out here,
It just stinks for them, I think, that this is the first event after that. So if you expect
Right.
some of that trickle, this is the card they receive.
Yeah, and it like I said, the first fight really good, and then David Rickles, Kenner Grove. Yes, did they win by knockout? Yes, were they? Well, Kenner Grove actually wasn't that impressive. He came out in the second round, landed a couple nice punches, got the knockout. But again, that's a lesser opponent. It was a guy that Kendall Grove should be. Same thing with David Rickles. Yeah, did he look impressive against Bobby Cooper? Yeah, but David Rickles should beat Bobby Cooper. David Cooper's a guy that, or David Rickles is a guy that is close to competing for championships and has competed for a championship.
Yeah,
he's supposed to be guys like that. And then no, I think K-Roz is actually a good heavyweight, but he didn't show up, I thought, against Czech Congo. I don't know what K-Roz that was. I mean, that was the Czech Congo we expect.
Yeah,
I thought
exactly.
Czech Congo fought like Czech Congo, but K-Roz did not fight like K-Roz. I don't know if he was worried about his power or
you step against the
what?
ring, against Czech Congo, and you look at that man staring at you. I think it does sap some of the adrenaline you're about to have. That is a beast heavyweight.
It is, but this was K-Roz's chance to sign. The fight was now moved to the main event. He's taking on a guy that prestige. I know there's not technically a Bellator heavyweight title yet. Congo's been complaining about that, but you beat a guy like Congo, maybe in exciting fashion. Maybe that opens up the discussion. Maybe all of a sudden you're heavyweight champ. This is a fight that can kind of open people's eyes, and maybe that's why they haven't brought the heavyweight title back, because Coker's like, these guys just aren't any good. But if you're able to have an exciting performance, maybe it changes the boss's mind. Neither guy really did that to me, in my opinion.
It's like, I know their heavyweight division's rough, and we've talked about it a lot, that they shouldn't even have it. If you're going to have it, make a champion. You have the division. It doesn't hurt anything. Even in the selling point, you say, this is our heavyweight champion.
Yeah.
And just don't have the division.
Give it to Congo. Make him your heavyweight champion. He's an ex-UFC fighter. You could market that so well.
And for this fight, I mean, it's just what we expected. We've seen the Czech Congo. No disrespect to him, but he's a Bellator heavyweight. UFC has trouble getting these heavyweights now, and Bellator, let alone they get a guy like Czech Congo who's fought the who's who of the sport, and it's just what we expect, man. But I just think if they're going to do this thing, you got to do it.
They're trying to set something up, I'm pretty sure, for Kimbo to get a fight, but they're trying to make sure Congo's not on
Justin
the
Wren is calling out Kimbo.
Justin Wren's the man because I respect him, and I think he'll beat anyone on a given night.
He would totally beat Kimbo.
I don't want that fight because of that.
That's the thing. I don't think Bellator will make it.
Kimbo's their marketable heavyweight right now. That's the thing. It's Kimbo. They're trying to get Kimbo in a position.
I don't think they do it just because they train a lot in Top Team, but Bobby Lashley versus Kimbo would draw a lot of ratings.
That's what I'm saying. But they somehow need Kimbo to win these big fights. Problem is, I don't think he's going to win Bobby Lashley, Czech Congo, or Justin Wren.
Bobby I mean, look at the style matchup.
Right.
He's just going to grapple him.
I'd like to see Lashley Wren. I think that's a
good fight.
That's a competitive fight, and it's a fight you can sell, because we talked about, I think the last time Lashley fought, some of the higher ratings of that broadcast were during Bobby Lashley's fight. Mm-hmm. So he's a guy people are tuning in to see. So I think Wren against Lashley would be a very good fight.
Their heavyweight division is weird right now because I feel like they definitely want Kimbo to be the champ. But there's two guys at the top that they really can't risk him against right now, Congo and Lashley. Like, you can't really – Congo's just kind of going to mess you up. Lashley's going to pin you down. Wren would be an awesome champ. Problem is he does a lot of charity work in Africa at months at a time. You can't have a champ who gets malaria, who is in the Congo and is in just different parts of the world, not even focused on a training camp because he's digging 20-foot holes in the ground, which I think is great. But I'm saying as a business, you don't want your heavyweight champ out doing him. Charity work looks great, but you want him available to fight.
I'm just being honest, though. If you actually think they want Kimbo as a heavyweight champ, which I get they would want that, any competitive heavyweight in that division would dismantle Kimbo.
That's what I'm saying. So, but look who's they're giving him.
I think also any light heavyweight.
That's why they were hoping the Dada fight probably would have went a little bit better, and they hyped that as a grudge match, because if he starched him, it's like, all right, he just knocked out Dada. He just submitted Ken Shamrock. Look at this. Boom. Heavyweight announcement. Title fight. Him, some schmuck. But
no, I think if you want to get your heavyweight's name on the map, you can't stretch Kimbo out much longer. You just feed him to him anyway and watch him get dismantled, and they say, "Oh man, this dude is a beast."
That's probably what's going to happen to Kimbo now. He's going to go back to
Kimbo
boxing.
with behind knees.
You know how the casuals.
Kimbo takes the loss. I don't care because he likes to fight everywhere. I want him over in glory. So,
hey,
dude, he would take one leg kick from Rico Verhoeven and die.
And on the way down, he would somehow land a punch and
Could
just
you
knock
imagine
him
those?
out.
Can you imagine Anderson Silva's leg kicks that he just showed at Glory?
I think if you here's the thing though, if you give Kimbo Slice standing 8 counts, I think he wins fights. So I feel like someone can't take a standing 8 from him, but I think if you give him a chance to recover, he's gonna come out and just dot on you.
All right. I think Bellator 151, as we transition real quickly, 2 very big fights in my opinion. This one is in the featherweight division. Bubba Jenkins will take on Gaoti Yamauchi, and I think that's a huge fight in the featherweight division. I don't know if the winner gets a title shot, but they move up a lot. They really move up. Bubba Jenkins, of course, a very accomplished wrestler. Yamauchi, boy, this guy just I feel like he came out of nowhere and is somehow 19-2. He has incredible submissions. In fact, 15 of his 19 victories are by submission. He is huge for this weight class as he's 5'10", and he has a chance to maybe be the best Japanese fighter in really quite some time, fighting in the U.S. And really, besides one loss to Will Martinez, he has looked really good in fight. He even beat Mike Richmond, who's pretty good himself. Martin Stapleton's not bad either. I think that this is a classic jiu-jitsu guy versus wrestler, and I think this is going to be a good fight, and the winner moves on to fight somebody very highly ranked in the featherweight division and is on the cusp of title shot contender status.
Yeah, I think Yamauchi is probably Japan's best chance at a champion in MMA over in America right now. He's really young. He's only 23. He's 19-2. He's an incredible grappler, and he's huge. He's kind of, it's going to sound weird saying this, he's kind of the Conor McGregor of submissions over in Bellator right now. He can find you. He'll choke you out. He can do it no problem. He's big for his weight class. He comes from an island nation that needs a champ. So, and they both have all right looking flags. But Bubba Jenkins is definitely no joke either. He's definitely an experienced dude, and I like Bubba a lot. And the thing is, he'll take the fight wherever he wants. He'll finish it however he wants, even if he wants to grind you out. So.
And his stand-up game has been improving, but again, it kind of was apparent in his most recent Bellator loss early last year. Of course, he got submitted by Georgie Karakhanyan, and that is something that as a fan of Bubba Jenkins, your fan, that has to worry you in this fight. The fact that he doesn't have the greatest actual technical jiu-jitsu skills, and he's probably even facing Yamauchi's probably better at submissions than Karakhanyan, which maybe is splitting hairs, but he has to try to keep this thing standing. I think. I don't know if he wants to really wade into the waters of Yamauchi.
He likes going to that wrestling a little bit.
I know he does,
but it's going to be a tough night for him.
You can't.
It's just knowing. When you have that background, but you've been submitted, I'm worried if I don't want to put it like, I guess we're not going to pick for this card. So if I were betting on him, wouldn't put it on Bubba Jenkins. I think this fight will end. He will get submitted, even though I like the dude. He's had a nice little run put together, cite the one little submission loss. But I think it's going to come to an end here.
Yeah, being just a quick note, it's like when you're wrestling's your bread and butter, and you're going against a guy who's jiu-jitsu is bread and butter, you're in a tough spot because when you take a guy down, you're automatically in his guard. And he's either going to submit you or pass you. So,
speaking of wrestling, we got 2 really good wrestlers in the main event as Joe Warren takes on Darian Caldwell. It kind of stinks that the Galvo fight got canceled. That fight got well, it kind of got canceled because it's been canceled twice. It's a cancer right now.
Man, I didn't know he was
there we go.
Sick,
all right, I'll turn it around.
All right, said the flu,
but I think the winner of this fight probably gets the winner of Galvo and Dantes. I really do. Caldwell has been on a roll since joining Bellator, winning all 5 of his fights, 3 of them coming by way of submission choke. Undefeated in his career if you go back to his days in Legacy. Joe Warren, of course, he's beaten Dantes. He does have a win over Galvo. He also has a loss. There's a good, trilogy fight there. And he had a very big win against LC Davis back in September to get back into the swing of things after getting submitted by Galvo to lose the title in March of last year. And, this is going to be tough. Caldwell is the bigger guy. He's 5'10" for the bantamweight weight class. He's also younger, probably a little stronger, but Joe Warren's just one of those guys that's just pure grit. And he just never stops going for he never stops working. And that is a strategy that sometimes can frustrate a lot of people. And it's going to prove if Caldwell is ready for the big time. If he can get by a guy like Joe Warren, he is ready to become a champion.
Yeah, I'm just gonna. Yeah, all right. So say Caldwell gets Warren in a rear naked choke. How is he gonna tap if he can't scream? I'm sorry, that was stupid, but yeah, I mean, it definitely. Well, no, that knee bar was nasty though. But Joe Warren, he's one of these guys that he comes and you know what you're gonna get, man. It's Joe Warren, but time isn't on his side. He's been in some battles. He's getting a little older.
Probably his last run here.
Yeah, and definitely, I think it's on the side for the young guy. I mean, 28, big, strong man. It's going to be a great fight, but it's not looking good for Joe Warren. I think he's reached that end, man.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen how this plays out all the time. We see the bigger upstart young guy come in and just take out a legend. I mean, and I say legend as in like, this is their big dude, Joe Warren, right now for Bellator. He's a pretty good fighter, and he's really well known. And
we like him. He's a Michigan guy from Grand Rapids.
Exactly, and he's named after one of our counties. So, but yeah, it's just one of those things where it's just like, eventually your time comes, that bell's going to toll. I mean, and when you hit close to 40, there's not a lot of fighters in the sport who hit 40 or get close to it who don't start taking losses. So, I mean, he can fight as long as he wants, but it's going to catch you.
All right, let's move on to the UFC action in London. UFC Fight Night, Silva versus Bisping. 4 fights were shown on the Fight Pass main card. The first fight in the bantamweight division as Brad Pickett took on Francisco Rivera. And I'm going to be honest, I thought, first of all, this was a good fight. And I'm not sure what fight the judges here, Ben Cartledge, Maishi Moleski, I probably said that wrong, and Paul Sutherland, I'm not really sure what they were watching. I don't even think Brad Pickett won any round in this fight. Yet, when it came down to the scorecards, Pickett wins a split decision 29-28, scoring on 2 of the judges' scorecards. The only judge that scored it was that Moleski for Rivera. And, the striking numbers are close, don't get me wrong, 69-64, slight edge for Rivera. But one of the reasons I thought Rivera wins, and the significant strike back this up, as the Fight Metric significant strike stats say that every shot that Francisco landed was a significant strike. We're only about half or maybe close to 2/3 were there for Pickett. Pickett did mix in a couple of takedowns, 2 in round 3, 1 in round 2, but I thought he didn't really do much with those. And you could tell the bigger shots were there, Rivera, and maybe it's because Rivera was a little more conservative than usual. We usually see him guns a-blazing, but I thought he composed himself really well. I think he definitely won round 1. I thought that was very apparent. He landed a lot of big shots. Round 2 was close, but again, I thought he rocked Pickett a couple of times. Like I said, round 3, I think I can admit you can give a case for Pickett, but I still thought Rivera landed a couple shots. And again, Pickett didn't really do much with the takedown. And Rivera even had a takedown of his own in round number 3. So I don't know if it was just the hometown thing in England, but I thought Rivera kind of got screwed a little bit in this one.
Yeah, I think it could have been the knot. I agree 100%, though. I mean, you look at it, the striking's there. He had 2 credited takedowns of his own. I mean, you broke down basically about everything. There's not much more you can add to it, but I just don't see it, man. You can't leave it in the hands of the judges, especially in England. We'll get into it later, how they rob Anderson Silva. But, no, yeah, it's just a tough fight. You don't leave it in the hands of the judges, man. It's close, but Rivera definitely, I think, landed the more significant shots in this one.
Yeah, well, I mean, in my opinion, though, I think I had this fight for Pickett. I think it definitely came down to that second round. The first round was clearly Rivera, and I feel like the third round was definitely Pickett. Second round was definitely very close. But I feel like Pickett's he just put the output where he needed. He had a little bit better control with what he was doing in that round. But to be quite frank, about halfway through this fight, I did start building a dresser because the prelim card was fireworks. And then we get to this main card, and it's
this fight was pretty good, though.
This next fight was pretty good, but I mean, this is the one where I stopped building the drawers and I watched this whole fight. But it's not saying I wasn't attentive. It's just like the output from the first fight was definitely not what I thought it would be. And as the card progressed,
the second fight, as we move into that, Tom Breeze against Kita Nakamura, not really that great. I actually thought Nakamura kind of surprised him a little bit with the takedowns there, and I thought would have got the first round in his favor. I thought controlled him well. Breeze tried to counter with heel hooks, which he did actually several times after Nakamura takedowns. Didn't really amount to something. But in round 2, once again, Nakamura was able to get the takedown. This time, Tom Breeze was able to reverse it and hold on to position, outstriking him 37-1. That's a pretty good clip. Definitely won round 2. Round 3, more of the same. Breeze definitely was the better stand-up fighter. Once again, got taken down, but was able to reverse position and outstruck him 26-6 in round 3. It wasn't the most exciting thing, but Breeze definitely did enough to get the victory. You could tell he was disappointed the first fight he didn't get a finish in, but that was going to end sooner or later, especially in the UFC. You're taking on tough guys, and maybe it wasn't quite the performance that fans were looking forward to or he was looking forward to, but he did enough to get the job done.
I just got a question for you, Colin. You were hyping Breeze up a lot. I just want to know prediction right now after this fight. I'm not saying it's good. He gets the fight. Is he still a top prospect? Is he the future?
I'm going to say yes, and I got a big point onto it, just because I hate doing this because of what he's become for the sport.
He's a good guy, isn't he?
No, you got to compare him with Conor McGregor treatment. When you get a top prospect who's a really good finisher and they have like no losses, you always are putting that risk out there for them to get that loss. And people are like, oh, well, he wasn't nothing, I guess. They gave him an incredibly well-rounded guy. And Breeze gave credit to Nakamura for this as well, just being such a well-rounded dude. He even said at the end of his fight, he's like, I went out for the finish. I tried. But, I mean, look at him. What did you expect? Breeze, he gave credit to the fact that he's hit the hard as he could on Nakamura. And Nakamura's a tough dude. But Breeze, he knew that coming into the fight that if he didn't get the finish, he had what it took to just coast it. And that's a big thing. It's just like when you realize you can't get the finish, you can still put an output there and get the win. So, I mean, hats off to Breeze. I'm really excited. I'm still all aboard on this thing right now, especially in welterweight. We need something like this. And I'm actually just really glad that he's getting experienced fighters rather than getting, PED-less Eric Silva or something like that, which I'd rather not watch.
Well, yeah, after this, I mean, if you beat a guy so well-rounded, you got the whole thing, you've been on this run, does he get a top 15er now? Back end of that, maybe?
I think at welterweight, you could argue, because there's some guys at the back end of welterweight who I could see. I'm not saying Tom Breeze should replace him, but I think would be a good test for him considering the amount of experience he just fought. I think he's shown, I mean, he can eat shots, he can stuff takedowns, he can throw out some good striking. I think he's a good guy to actually give a top 15 dude. Jake Ellenberger's on his way out over and over again. He still wants to keep fighting. Give him Jake Ellenberger. Tarek Saffiedine just came back. He's top, I think he's still 15. I don't think he got back to 10. I don't know if they moved him or not.
Dong Hyun Kim even wouldn't be bad.
Dong Hyun Kim, Tyron Woodley's throwing a fit. Give it to him now. But as a side note, so a fight that happened earlier in the evening, Mir Kwani.
We're going to look at what I got pulled up.
Oh, there you go. See, put on a clinic. Probably the most obvious case of any grappling clinic you will ever see in a fight. For folks who aren't a fan of jiu-jitsu, just go watch the fight and just see what it's like to see a guy like Damian Maia fight. This kid was completely calm and comfortable. He was jumping out of guard in the half guard into full mount. He got put in a keyhole lock and I think it was a triangle, not a triangle. No, he got put in a guillotine. 3 submission attempts. I forgot what the last one was against him, and he just ever so calmly just waited out of them over the course of a minute. It was just beautiful to watch this guy just come out there and without any problem. And Mike Wilkerson was no joke coming into this fight. It was a legitimate threat. And for Amir Kwani to just put the entire fight basically on the ground and just not a problem, put out just such good work. I mean, in his weight division, that's going to be a big deal.
Him versus Brian Ortega.
Dude.
I'd like that. I mean, he comes in here, he knocks out Ogle, submits Fullen, and then gets a decision here. I mean, he definitely deserves a good fight, and there's a lot of hype around him.
Let's get to the co-main event of the evening in the middleweight division and talk about domination here from Gegard Mousasi. Talos Leites, despite losing his last fight, I still think has momentum and a great performance against Michael Bisping, but that was not the Leites we saw in this fight, and it wasn't the Mousasi who even fought Uriah Hall, and this was reminded me of Mousasi's debut against Latifi, where the jab was the key to his victory, and that was the key here as he was jabbing up a storm against Talos Leites, who seemed to have no defense for that. And by the end of this fight, and really for most of the fight, that jab just set the pace, and Mousasi did the jab, got out of the way, circled some more, jab, maybe mixed in a kick and a right, and Leite just couldn't keep up. And you look at these striking numbers, shows a huge disparity: 26-4 Mousasi, 39-7 Mousasi, 30-8 Mousasi in favor of land strikes. Rounds 1 through 3 for a total discrepancy of 95-19 in favor of Mousasi. And by the end of this fight, Leite's, he tried to get it to the ground, maybe an area he would have the better, being a former jiu-jitsu world champion. 0 for 10 in the takedown departments. He just got absolutely shut down by Gegard, who now bounces back very nicely after the loss to Hall. And Bisping's status is uncertain as a title contender. So is Romero. You got Jacare in there, but Mousasi moves himself right back into the picture with guys like that.
I'll go second because I know Billy will want to go last and talk about that post-fight conference probably for a second with Mousasi. Yeah, but I think the bigger thing, and not even the striking, because I wasn't expecting a crazy striking output from either guy. But definitely, Gegard was a champ for a reason, and he displayed it here. He just knows how to coach the fight to win it. He's not the most exciting dude. I don't get out of bed to watch Gegard fight. I got out of my bed in my underwear when Uriah Hall knocked him out.
What's funny? Gegard Mousasi barely gets out of bed. It just looks like
honestly, he kind of looks like he's ready to just go right back to bed.
Yeah.
He was playing backgammon in the back room, waiting for the warm-up of the fight. His fight was next, and he was playing backgammon.
And that's like one of the most boring things you can play.
Yeah, and that's like they play that in the mountains over in Tibet. All right, so this guy is so chill. He comes to this fight. He already knew his game plan.
Finish your dresser during this fight?
Honestly, I got pretty dang close. All right, but it was just. I think the big thing here was just that when Leite ever wanted to take down Mousasi, just shrugged it off. Like you said, 0 for 10. He did not give a damn. He just said, I know you're good there, but not today. And then he went and probably had like a donut and probably got in an Uber home and enjoyed his evening.
Yeah, I expected more from ladies with the whole just sort of, I want to say movement, but just he had something going right now where I think he had a little run going again, even though it was a tough loss. But the one thing I didn't think of was Mousasi might show a little bit of emotion. And he actually showed that, I don't know, it was different this fight. It wasn't just I'm sort of in my mode. I show up to this fight. He definitely wanted it more. You can tell in the things he was saying after. He's hungry. He wants to remind you who he is. So I'm excited now. As weird as that sounds for Mousasi's upcoming future.
Yeah, he dropped the mic on that one. His big thing was that he wanted the win here because he wanted to get this title run going. And he's like, I wanted the title run, but then that F and Uriah Hall thing happened, and all this stuff. And you could tell he was really upset that he let himself get caught by that. So we'll see where this goes, but at this point, I'm kind of excited. If he might show a little bit of crazy motivation, there's still some good fights that he could have.
The Moose is going to be the Moose.
All right, let's get to the main event. Everyone's talking about this fight, Anderson Silva against Michael Bisping. To me, there's two big things for Michael Bisping that kind of helped to his victory. One was his output and / lack of output by Anderson Silva. And two, because of Anderson Silva celebrating prematurely, it kind of set a crazy situation towards the end of round 3 and the beginning of round 4 that somehow caused Michael Bisping to possibly continue, maybe against better judgment, maybe not, into round 4, which allowed Bisping to continue on, and he ended up winning this fight on all judges' scorecards, 48-47. And because of the lack of output, Silva pretty much dropped rounds 1 and 2. He had some moments. You could make a case he landed more significant strikes in this fight, maybe the more closer to fight-ending strikes. But it's not like Bisping landed a whole lot. 112 out of 320 is not a good clip, but you look at 320 thrown strikes to just 135. That's a huge difference, and that really played, I think, in the judges' minds. And like I said, round 1 and 2 definitely for Bisping. Round 3, of course, that's when the knee happened and all this craziness. And I guess we'll kind of get it to there. I think because of the Anderson Silva celebration, it just kind of said everything crazy. Herb Dean's trying to manage everything that he can. No one seemed to listen to him. People are paying attention to Anderson. They should be paying attention to Herb Dean. Anderson has no say when the fight over. It's when Herb Dean says it's over. So everyone's like, oh, what should we do? And Herb's like, hey, the fight's not over. People are like, yeah, but he's celebrating. And just no one seemed to know what to do. Then all of a sudden they do that little horn to go, all right, 10 seconds, the round's about to start. And all of a sudden the round's about to start. No doctor, no cut men even talk to Bisping. And they're like, you ready to go? And he's like, I guess. And he's like, Herb's like, okay. let's go. And then next thing you know, the round started. And it's crazy to think that if Anderson just walks over to his corner, acts like it's just then another round, maybe the fight gets ended. It's crazy to think that.
If he even, I think, attempted to throw one punch after Bisping went down, Herb rips him off. If he just went for it, I don't even think it had to land. But the fact that he just kind of strolled off is what did it.
Yeah, I feel like he could have landed just one more punch. And the thing is, like, all Silva does need one more punch. When Bisping got dropped by that knee, he wasn't out cold. He crumpled to his side and took a knee on the fence. And then the buzzer rang, and Silva was off celebrating. But instead of celebrating, Silva would have just followed up with his one punch. Bisping either would have been out cold, or he would have been so damaged he would have stopped it in between rounds, which is not unheard of. There's guys
right, that's what I mean. If he just walks over
and the
to his
problem
corner, ends the round, they maybe look at him and go, Bisping's not looking good. Let's stop it.
You know, he had a hard time getting his balance and everything and bearings in. But then at the same time, like, how bad could it have been in between rounds? Because he came out and won the fourth round right after.
He did.
So
and it really reset after the cup shot. Kind of took a break. He was able to do that. And another thing, the detriment to Anderson Silva losing, he had a chance to go for the kill there. Michael Bisping was not 100% entering that fourth round, and I thought Silva let him off the hook. He could have went for the kill. I know he's a counter striker and all this stuff, but sometimes you got to put it on a guy.
Well,
I think if he puts it on him right there at the beginning of the fourth round, maybe Bisping doesn't walk away with the decision.
This is how the fight played out for me, watching it live, was that Bisping clearly won the first two rounds. The first one at the end, there was a flurry. Bisping got caught and rocked, but then he caught Silva, I think, even harder. And that edged him the round. He was already dominant in that round, but he was showing that he wasn't going to play Silva's game. Silva kept standing up on the fence, telling him to come here, not doing nothing. Bisping's like, no, I know how you do this. I know these games. I'm not going to deliberately put myself on the cage for you to circle out. He knows this. He let it reset. Same thing, second round. Wasn't playing Silva's game. Silva tried it. For the first three rounds, Silva kept trying this spinning back elbow. Okay, every time Bisping, he had something timed for him. He would come in, he'd throw the right, and then he'd try and come over with the left. So Silva would duck down and try and snap his elbow up and try and catch him with it or come back over here. He threw it so many times. Probably most of his missed strikes in those first few rounds was him trying that elbow. And it was just, you could tell he was trying to get something on a highlight reel. He was just coming out there, he was trying for it, being completely respectful to Bisping in between rounds, but he was just trying to get the highlight reel finish here, and that's what let Bisping just coast and get the score. But then he dropped, and I almost thought he's about to get the TKO on Silva in the second round. Silva took a punch on one of those elbow tricks, and then he caught a left straight across the face. He went down. He had this look on his face like, oh, crap, I screwed up. And Bisping started raining down the TKO almost, but didn't happen. Silva's got a pretty good guard. Third round, I mean, obviously was Silva after that knee and everything. That was still in
that gave him the round, that pretty much, because that was up in the air.
He would have probably lost 4-1 if that knee didn't happen.
Exactly.
And then
he gave away round
fourth round. You know, that's where Bisping took all of his damage from the third round. So it's like that's where he started looking like crap. You know, and his face is completely destroyed. And then fifth round came around.
Close, but again, Silva landed the significant strikes.
Yeah, Silva was coming in for the kill. He realized, okay, I might have screwed up here. Maybe I should get this.
But I still had let him off the hook, though, even in the fifth round.
Well, no, in the fifth round, he came out with a nasty front kick. And
he did, but I feel like he didn't follow up. Like, he landed one nice strike, and then he was like, all right, I'm going to sit back so I don't get hit.
But the thing is, like, Bisping knows his stuff, and he's had so much time to just be ready for Anderson. You know, he ate that front kick, but at this point, you've seen everything Anderson's going to do to you. What we saw here, which I don't think many people expected, was that a Michael Bisping who didn't come out completely emotional and had like a grudge against you. He came out completely smart because he knew he was fighting a technical killer, and any mistake, he would have gotten dropped and killed.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to take anything away from Bisping, but I think Anderson blew this fight in three ways. I guess the first obvious one is the knee. Obviously, if you think he would have went for any sort of follow-up, probably get stopped. Two, when he really went forward and was aggressive, he controlled it. He could have dominated the whole fight, but he wanted to keep playing his games and drag Bisping in, which Bisping clearly showed, like, hey, I'm not doing that. So I think if he would have just played his aggression at all, and then especially he let him off in the fourth round. Just if he takes and goes forward in that fourth round where Bisping doesn't know where he's at, you steal the fight. You get 3, 4, and 5. So
And
maybe you get the finish.
I know, and I agree, and I think that was the big thing here is that Silva didn't, and this is weird, and everyone says this all the time, and I say it a lot, and now I've just realized, it's just everyone says, well, Silva needs to go for the kill, and he needs to show more initiative. It's like people got to realize by now that isn't Silva's style. It's to play the game, it's to play the rope-a-dope, and he wants to get.
I know it is.
He wants to highlight, but regardless, the thing is like that isn't Silva's
thing. This is probably the one time in his
career
it would have
benefited
hurt him.
But if he benefited him if he didn't do that, right. It hurt him to actually play his rope-a-dope, and it's just it cost him the fight, and rightfully so. I think Bisping, without a doubt, got a 48-27.
Absolutely,
it scored exactly how I thought it scored, and
I think almost everybody. It's one of the few times in a big fight where almost everyone's scoring it the exact same. You don't see too many variations.
Yeah, a lot of people cried controversy, but then when the judges' scorecards came out, and then all these fans coming in and everything talking about it, and even the referees, it was a clear Bisping win. Dana White's butthurt about it. He's butthurt because he lost out on a little bit of money because he scored at 48-47 for Silva. I don't think that's true because he's always adamant to say, don't let it go to the
Silva's
judges.
Had controversy go on his side before when he illegally beat Chael Sonnen, so I don't know. So I don't.
That's
so
Dana's thing,
how can you be pissed? He lost this one, but the good thing, I guess you could say for the UFC, Anderson Silva loses amid mistakes, but he looked like the old Silva. It didn't look like that guy that fought Nick Diaz. Whoever that guy was not the Spider. This guy was the Spider. He might have lost, but he looked good. And maybe he's not going to make a title run again, but at least he can be competitive and he can sell a couple more fights for the UFC.
I think the problem is, though, is that he does look like the old Silva, and that's the rope-a-dope guy, but the problem is he has the added bonus of not having a chin anymore.
And being 40 years old.
And the problem, well, that's the thing, like watching the fight, though, after his post-fight and watching him leave, you saw the face of a man who realized he is not a legend anymore. And that's kind of
still a legend.
No. I mean, like, he doesn't
he's
have
not the baddest man on the planet.
He's not going
to
get. He's no longer like walks into the cage and he's leaving with a crazy vine or something like that, where like he was 4 years ago.
Right.
That's the thing. He's avenged all of his losses except Chris Weidman, and it's just like the Yushin Okami thing. He was riding high on, and then he just took this huge string of just public smearing with the steroids, the back-to-back losses to Weidman, this loss to Bisping, and I think he's just now starting to realize, like, hey, I'm no longer, the big bad dude who I used to be, and that's kind of a tough pill to swallow. Will he retire, leaving his contract open? I doubt it. He loves fighting, but I don't think we're going to see him do a title run now.
Yeah, he's definitely going to get some more fights out of him. He didn't get like devastatingly knocked out again. I mean, it is Michael Bisping, but it's
anyone else in the division, though. That's the thing. Anyone else in the division probably could knock him out now. If Bisping can land a counter overhook left to your head and knock you down for a TKO, Bisping, the lightest hitter in that division, probably.
Yeah, but I mean,
he could probably get KO'd by Gegard right now.
He definitely could, but I mean, I'm just saying a lot of other fighters too. Bisping's one of those guys where he really uses his pace and control to use a fight.
He has a resting heart rate of 31.
That's the best style to go against Silva.
Yeah.
Other fighters, they're still going to go into that rope-a-dope stuff.
Who would have thought that would have been the best matchup for Silva? It's crazy. Like if years ago, if that fight would have happened, who knows how that would have went.
No, honestly, after watching this fight, I have no doubt in my mind. In Silva's prime, he absolutely destroys Michael Bisping. I'm just going to be honest.
I think so too.
But where it's at now, Bisping definitely gets the win here.
All right, let's get to UFC 196 this weekend in Las Vegas on pay-per-view. 5 fights on the main card, kicking off in the women's bantamweight division with a huge matchup of contenders as Amanda Nunes will take on Valentina Shevchenko. Shevchenko just made her UFC debut after a nice run in Legacy, defeating Sarah Kaufman on short notice in her debut back at Fox 17 just in December by split decision. She's right back on it, taking on Amanda Nunes, who has looked really good since losing to Kat Zingano, knocking out Shayna Baszler, then submitting Sarah McMahon in her last effort, both of those inside the first round. And this girl is a killer. 11 wins, all by finish, 9 knockouts with 2 submissions. And Shevchenko, I mean, this is no offense to Sarah Kaufman. Sarah Kaufman, I think, is starting to kind of get on the tail end of her career. And I think this is a huge step up because I think Nunes is on the cusp of title shot. Her finishing rate, and she's maybe the nastiest girl in this division, maybe next to Zingano or Rousey, however you want to look at it, in terms of finishing girls and doing it very impressively and violently. That is Amanda Nunes. And Shevchenko, she has her work cut out for her. I think in pure kickboxing, Shevchenko, that's her strategy, the Peruvian. And I think if it stays at range, she can win. But if she is not able to keep things at distance and lets Nunes get close, either for her power shots or lets her get taken down, she has the better grappling skills of the two, and she can make it a very short night for the Peruvian.
Yeah, I mean, for Nunes, I probably look stupid now, but leading up to the Rousey home fight, I was arguing that she probably should have got it. I think she looked more nasty than anybody coming into it. So this is a huge fight to look out for, because I definitely think, depending, who knows where the whole Rousey situation lies, because at any point she wants to come back, she's going to get the shot. But if not, I think this fight definitely gets the winner of the Tate Holm fight. So she's looked nasty. No offense to Bullet. I don't want to take much out of her, but it's going to be a rough night for her.
Yeah, I feel like Amanda Nunes is on a pretty good run, just rebound-wise. How she do against Shevchenko, we'll see. But, yeah, I think the winner of Tate and Holm would be a fun fight for Nunes. I'd rather see that. There's no discredit to Shevchenko. I'd rather Shevchenko get a little bit more time in this division. But
Yeah, I
the
don't
problem
like
with
this
the
fight
division,
for her
though, is
either.
that it's hard to give a fighter some time in this division, because most of these women fighters, they're going 2 and then 1 and then 2 and then 1. So it's like, really, if a fighter wins 2, 3 in a row, you kind of got to move them up for that shot.
Yeah, the one thing I wish, I don't want to take anything away from Shevchenko again, but I wish Nunes would have got a better name almost to side.
Yeah, it's no offense to Shevchenko, but yeah, Nunes, I thought was going to get Tate or a Zingano, or maybe even a Juliana Pena, and I thought that looks better leading into title picture. Now, if Nunes goes out there, gets another first round finish, maybe she solidifies her case anyway. But if she kind of struggles a little bit with Shevchenko, gets the win, but it's like, well, that could set her back.
I think there was probably a chance she probably would have got Holly Holm if she lost to Ronda Rousey. I think because they wanted to move Nunes up to fight Rousey. I just think a lot of matchmaking brass had that thought.
Because you would have had 100% finish rate against 100% finish rate.
Think of how nasty that matchup is.
That matchup is insane. But obviously it didn't pan out that way. So
yeah, we'll see. But yeah, definitely look out for the we'll get to the co-main event just a second, but the next fight will be in the light heavyweight division, and that will be Tom Lawler against Corey Anderson. And this should be interesting. Tom Lawler, of course, was on The Ultimate Fighter many years ago. Got hurt and was out for about 2 years. Decided to go from middleweight, where he had fought the majority of his MMA career. In fact, I think almost all of it, at least in the UFC. Moves up to light heavyweight and knocks out Jean Vellante in the second round. A lot of people didn't think that was going to happen, considering the layoff and, of course, the quality of opponent moving up weight. A lot of things were going against Tom Lawler heading into that fight, but he knocked out Jean Vellante. Now he's taking on Corey Anderson. He's taking on a man who's beast in 25-8. And really, besides that Vellante loss for Anderson, Anderson has looked nothing short but dominant in his UFC tenure, of course, winning the Ultimate Fighter not too long ago, officially 4-1 in the UFC. And since that Vellante loss, which was an amazing fight, one fight of the night for that Rockhold Machida Fox card, he has defeated Jan Blachowicz and Fabio Maldonado. Tom Lawler does have some wrestling background, but he's given up size to Corey Anderson, and I think that size difference and the wrestling ability may be the difference in this one.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to get you guys, some fans, some money right now. Simple MMA math. This is easy, guys. One guy gets knocked out by Jean Vellante. One guy knocks Jean Vellante out. It's that easy, right? So easily. Bet against Beast in 25. No, this is a great fight. And man, I'm obsessed with that nickname. But Corey Anderson's been looking good, man. Like you said, he had the one tough loss, which was a close fight in a war. That being said, Jean Vellante, he's had a lot of hype being good friends with Chris Weidman. And it's an exciting matchup here.
Yeah, no.
You want to talk about Jean Vellante still? I'm sorry.
Hey, we'll be talking about him more in a minute.
I was looking at the next one.
Yeah. Tom Lawler is actually doing pretty well for how old he's been in this league. But, at the same time, Beast in 25-8's coming out here to do what he does, and that's put out fireworks. And over in light heavyweight, I mean, I think that's doing pretty well for him so far. But, at the same time, Tom Lawler, he's fought a pedigree of dudes. I mean, he fought Chris Weidman back when Chris Weidman was on his way up. And, that's not a knock, but at the same time, this could go pretty easily for Beaston, just because sometimes, these old guys just kind of fiddle out against these young bucks.
All right, speaking of Jean Vellante, he's in the next fight also in the light heavyweight division as he takes on Ilir Latifi. Latifi not resting on his laurels, fresh off a 30-second first-round knockout to Sean O'Connell just like 5 weeks ago in Boston. He's right back at it, taking on Vellante, who's coming off a nice bounce-back win after his Lawler loss, knocking out Anthony Peroche in the first round back in November. And really, we got two heavy hitters here in the light heavyweight division. Both both have the penchant for knockouts and doing them quick. I think the difference, Latifi, I think, has a little more grappling background, a little bit of an X factor maybe there. And also, there is a size difference. I mean, Latifi's a 205 in terms of wide. He's like a wide body, but he's only 5'8", and you got Jean Vellante, who's 6'2", and I think that reach and height that Latifi may have to try to overcome against a guy who has shown that he's become a pretty good striker in this light heavyweight division could be tough for him, even with that power.
Yeah, but I think Latifi's got a little roll going on. I mean, the fight right before that was a knockout in a minute, right? Just under?
He is coming off back-to-back first-round knockouts.
Yeah, and then within the first minute. So he's definitely on this roll. He's looked good. He's looked technical. Jean Vellante, I don't know. I mean, he gets wins, but Peroche, I don't want to take anything away from him, but I expected exactly what that was. I didn't.
And also, just to add to your point, Billy, going back in his whole UFC record 4-2, but 4 of his last 5 wins, all of those are first-round finishes.
Yeah, and even submission, he's a finisher. In this fight, I really think, I'm giving away a pick here. I always do this. I can't help it, but I think Jean Vellante's in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. When you see a lot of success from those short, stocky dudes who really know how to throw their punches up. And so, I mean,
especially Vellante throws long. Like, he swings kind of, I don't say why, but
right, exactly. And that kind of just leaves your chin up there and just nice and easy. I mean, when you got 4 inches on a guy, your chin is basically straight up, and it's just such an easy
Actually,
thing.
he's going to have 6 inches.
I can't do math. You're right.
Because 5'12" would be 6.
I'm going back to school.
No, you're good. You're good.
But yeah, I mean, that's the thing, though. It's like, that just leaves you open for like some nasty overhands. You're not going to be taking an uppercut anytime soon unless you're in a clinch. But I mean, Latifi, he's clearly got the power, and he's going to throw that Swedish meatball right at him. So I'm surprised he's not called that, to be honest. But
against the Italian meatball, it's a good. See whose meatballs are better.
Yeah, which meatball is better?
All right, let's get to the co-main event. Of course, the aforementioned Holly Holm.
Just going to skip that fight?
And Misha Tate. What? We're not skipping
the fight. Bardizada? Oh,
no,
man.
We're not skipping it.
Sure dog, you goober. You all mixed up on me.
That's Sure Dog.
UFC.
They don't conform to the UFC
standard. I can't do anything.
It's okay. Co-main event, Holly Holm defending her title for the first time against Misha Tate. Tate is a good striker. I think actually has a little more one-shot knockout power than Tate in terms of one strike, but obviously the kickboxing skills Holly Holm has, and of course she put them full on display in her title victory over Ronda Rousey. I don't think that's an area Misha Tate wants to stay for too long. She wants to turn this into an ugly grappling match, and when Misha's on top, there are few better in this division at roughing a girl up than Misha Tate, and that's really what she's good at. Her bread and butter is getting on top and landing some nasty shots, and if Misha Tate can get this fight to the ground, I think she can win. But if Holly Holm if she can do what she did against Ronda Rousey, keep things standing, avoid the takedown, staying on the outside, and being able to land power strikes from the outside, she can defend her title successfully.
Yeah, I think Misha Tate, even on the feet, will be a lot better matchup for Holly, and I think she'll do better. But there's no doubt in this fight that Holly's the better striker, and I think if she can do exactly what she wants to do and keep Misha out, she's going to dominate this fight and control it. That being said, Misha's the grappler here, and if she can get it down, Misha wins the fight. So it's kind of striker versus grappler in a sense, but it's just until this point, it's hard to question Holly Holm because no one's been able to get her down even.
No one has. I mean, she's beaten everybody she's faced, and she's knocked out 7 of her 10 opponents.
Yeah, you're a better grappler, but get her down. So up until this point, there's not much we can question there, and I think all signs point that Holly Holm should be able to control this fight.
Yeah, I mean, Holly Holm, I was questioning her first 2 fights on her grappling. That's what I thought Rousey was going to beat her with. And that's obviously Misha Tate's way to victory here is to grapple with her. But, being said, I mean, Holly Holm, her game plan probably going in is just push Tate up against the fence.
It's probably going to be pretty good. I mean, if she can have a game plan
and just tee on her,
to a tee like she had against Ronda, she's going to be prepared.
And she's at the best camp in the world for game plans right now. So
the only difference, I guess, I could say to give Misha an edge, I don't know if she's fought anyone like Misha that's more of a straight wrestler. Like
That's true.
Ronda's sort of different. She gets in the judo clinch. So she's going to be getting takedowns from different areas. So maybe that's a little question that Misha could get her down. But like I said, up until this point, haven't seen it yet.
And really, besides Ronda, that's pretty much the only girl who's given Misha trouble. I mean, she did lose to, Sarah Kaufman, but that was back in 2009. She had it was a amazing fight between her and Kat Zingano, before she got hit with the knee. So, I mean, she's only lost to the best. So it's going to be a close fight. And, and you can make a case, Holly's on a roll. Obviously, she beat Ronda, but Misha's on a nice roll. I mean, she's coming off 4 straight victories beating Liz Carmouche, Rin Nakai, maybe not the best one out of the group, but then Sarah McMahon and Jessica Ai. That's 3 opponents inside the top 10, and she dominated all of them.
Yeah, what blows me away, Misha Tate's kind of been at the top and around for so long. She's 29.
Yeah.
So she's still got it, man. So this is a tough fight for Holly, no doubt, because even though she has the edge in striking, Misha Tate has that striking power. She dropped the last fight. She had a hard right hand
against Jessica. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so she's looked better and better. So if she mixes in her grappling with the striking, maybe she has that edge. So this is definitely a tough matchup, and I'm really excited for it. I'm more excited for this than I would be a Ronda rematch, put it that way.
Right. Well, let's get to the main event on the car ride and to and from Glory. I think we talked about this one so much, so we'll try not to go too crazy about this matchup. Conor McGregor against Nate Diaz in the main event with RDA out. It will be competed in the welterweight division. Just again, both men's credentials as of late. Conor McGregor, of course, we all know on the huge roll, has not lost since 2010 when he got submitted by Joe Duffy. Since then, he's beaten everybody that he's been put up against with a talk about 100% finishing rate, pretty damn close. 18 of his 19 career victories by finish, with 17 coming by way of knockout, and his only losses in his career have been by submission, which coincides with Nate Diaz. That's the majority of how he's won his fights. 11 of 18 victories by submission. He has mixed in 4 knockouts for 15 of his 18 career victories by finish. He's coming off a brilliant performance and win against Michael Johnson back in December at UFC on Fox. Of course, going to be slightly bigger. Conor McGregor listed at 5'8", probably 5'9", and you got Nate Diaz at 6 foot. Now, of course, being at welterweight, Nate has fought at welterweight. Conor has not fought above 155 pounds. Nate has fought the majority of his career at 155, so maybe that's not as huge of a difference as it would be maybe against the natural welterweight, but it does present a little bit of interesting problems. It's also going to be one of the first times in Conor's career he's going to face a guy that's really taller than him and has a longer reach than him. And of course, you add in the submission backgrounds. That's the only way anyone's been able to touch what seems to be invincible in Conor McGregor. And of course, you add in 12 days notice. Sometimes, does it suck for the guy? 12 days, maybe not in shape, but it also changes your mindset. He's going in for a different type of opponent. He was going in for RDA, which he thought was more going to pressure him with takedowns and stuff. And now he's taking on the trash talking, stocking, slapping on a triangle choke on you, Nate Diaz. So it's a little different ball game. So a lot of interesting things in this fight. It's still a big fight, even though it's not for a guy becoming a multiple title holder. And it's intriguing, and it moves the needle is what is important for the UFC, and that's why Nate Diaz gets the slot against Conor McGregor.
Yeah, I guess for this fight, I'll kind of start and say all things I bring up, I mean, I'm going to edge everything towards Conor because until this point, I guess the submissions is one thing because that's kind of He has shown a long time ago, though, so you don't know that he can get caught. But until then, he's looked dominant. Advantages for Nate Diaz, like you brought up, the reach, he's big. We really haven't seen Conor go against anything like this at an elite level for sure, at this level, on someone like Diaz. He comes this fight in 12 days' notice. It's just going to be a war, I think, man. I think at any moment, Conor has more of the one-punch finishing power, obviously. Diaz has a submission game, but I think these two, especially Diaz with the emotion, he's going to come out there. He always does, hit him with the Stockton slap, and they're going to go at it. There's really not much to it. Diaz took this fight on 12 days' notice, so I don't think he's going to try and implement a strong game plan. He's just going to go in there and go for it. So expect nothing but fireworks. I mean, we've talked about this fight so much to an extent, but I'm more excited for this fight as a fan than I am for RDA, even though I want the belts. Obviously, you want to see that fight, but as a matchup, this is the fight the fans want.
Yeah, this one's gonna be weird to watch. For a lot of fans of Conor McGregor, this is gonna be the first time that Conor McGregor's already fought someone who's actually bigger than him. Nate Diaz, he's going to be a big 170 just because he's also a couple inches taller and a couple inches longer than McGregor. He's really quick with the submissions, and because he's so tall and lanky, it actually makes it a little bit more dangerous because he likes to throw a lot of those arm bars and triangles, and that's what makes it really tough.
Yeah, and I think it's just he's a lot more active. Some people wait for that perfect setup moment. They're constantly just throwing every type of submission attempt at you.
The problem that I see Nate Diaz having here, because I think he'll frustrate McGregor a little bit with the striking reach and everything, and McGregor have a hard time there. With punching, and I don't think anyone's getting knocked out this fight. It'll probably go decision, if anything. But I think where McGregor is going to absolutely shine, and this is just where it's going to be tough for Diaz, is he's really flat-footed. And I think McGregor's just going to come out there with just a lot of powerful leg kicks and just really show the footwork and just the ability just to throw a kick whatever direction he wants when he needs to. And I think Diaz is just going to see an issue there because those guys hate it when you don't want to just stand out and brawl, and they want to get in your face, clinch you, drag you down, submit you. That's their style, and they win that way. And they do it to frustrate you too. I mean, that's how they win a lot of their fights. But I think McGregor is going to do what RDA did to him and just take out that inside leg really bad. I mean, and it may not be the most entertaining thing in the world, but I think if McGregor's shown anything, is that he thinks like a champion. I mean, and sometimes to think like a champion, you just got to take the easiest route, and that's to not get caught into the Diaz game, because even though McGregor, when a takedown comes, he likes to play with the legs a little and kind of kick your ass, like literally kick you in the butt and just like start kicking you. And, you know, he's probably too smart to go into the guard of Nate Diaz because it just takes a real quick and you're just tapping immediately. I think it's just going to be both dudes are going to have points where they're frustrated because they're going to realize, like, oh, hey, Diaz can hit me from back here. I'm not going to be getting my left off anytime soon. But at the same time, Diaz is going to have a hard time coming in because McGregor's just going to kick the leg, back up, kick the leg, back up. You know, and then if he gets pushed against the fence, Diaz is going to have a lot of that slapping in the face. He's going to have a lot of punching to the body. He's going to tee off on you while he's there. But McGregor's got the most deadliest counters when he's cornered up against the fence. I mean, he throws nasty bombs. I mean, even his right uppercut's pretty bad. So we'll see how it goes. There's good points to both fighters and everything. I honestly think it just might be a decision victory.
Yeah, I don't know if my heart can take this one. Yeah, I really don't.
It's tough because I love both guys, and I want Diaz to do well at lightweight. I want McGregor just to do well.
To be McGregor.
This won't take his belt away, but it'll damper the flair of the whole thing of Conor McGregor, the undefeated. But at the same time, he could just lose and just doesn't matter. He's still just going to take crazy fights. I mean, he's just going to make money regardless. So who knows?
All right, let's get to picks here. UFC 196, Saturday, March 5th from the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, Nevada, live on pay-per-view, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, and also that is 5 Hawaiian. All right, let's get to the first fight of the evening, the women's bantamweight division, Amanda Nunes against Valentina Shevchenko. Shevchenko has a lot of promise, I think, but Nunes right now is on a roll, and I think she's just bigger, stronger, and just an absolute killer. So give me the Lioness in this matchup.
Yeah, Amanda Nunes. I think she probably could have got a better matchup, but this is the one they made. I think Nunes gets a strong knockout here, and then
Nunes by victory.
Light heavyweight division, Tom Lawler against Corey Anderson. Much like Nunes, Corey Anderson's bigger. I think he's stronger. I think he's a little faster, and he's beast in 25-8. So give me Corey Anderson in this one.
Beast in 25-8. Nothing else.
25-8, my man. We're pretty boring up here.
All right. Also, light heavyweight division, Ilir Latifi against Jean Vellante. I think this is a close fight. Guys have a lot of power. Both are coming off of wins. I'm going to go with Vellante. I think his height and reach, I think, may prove problems for the man from Sweden.
Ilir Latifi, man. He's been on a roll. He's going to come out there and get that big knockout.
Going with the Swedish meatball.
Co-main event of the evening for the Women's Bantamweight Championship of the World. Holly Holm puts her title on the line for the first time against Miesha Tate, her second chance at capturing UFC gold. Will she get it this time? I am saying no. I think Holly Holm will win this fight. Just the game plan she displayed against Ronda Rousey, I just have a feeling her, Winklejohn, and Greg Jackson will be able to develop something to counteract Miesha Tate, and the Preacher's Daughter will walk out of Las Vegas with that belt around her waist.
Do it. Just do it.
Think, and it didn't
Do it.
hit me till I was breaking it down. Miesha Tate mixes her grappling and striking enough to get the decision here, man. I think she takes Holly Holm out. And sorry, UFC, but I think she does it.
I think Holly Holm's just too big and long for her, so I think she's just going to coast it. Holly Holm.
All right, let's get to the main event of the evening. Was going to be a catchweight, now a officially welterweight bout between Conor McGregor against Nate Diaz, the featherweight champion of the UFC, taking on former Ultimate Fighter winner and #1 contender in Nate Diaz on 12 days' notice. I will go with Conor McGregor. I think Nate Diaz does have a chance in this, but was one of the things I always say, Colin, I like to pick guys on rolls. Is anyone on a bigger roll right now than Conor McGregor? That
Roy
is
Nelson.
He may be eating a bigger. I think he's eating a bigger role than Conor McGregor. That is for sure. But give me the notorious one for this.
As like a technical put, I think you have to pick Conor McGregor in this fight. But my heart, it's there. I think it go either way. I guess I'm going to go with Conor McGregor because I love both of them equally.
This fight could go either way. I'm going to go with Conor McGregor just for the reasons I stated. He's got the longer legs, and I think since we saw Nate choke against that with RDA, I think it just might be the winning factor.
He's the champ. You can't question it until proven.
But this doesn't hurt either guy. I still think either way, Nate Diaz just went out and fought with one of the best fighters out there right now. And Conor McGregor just fought a very game dude who's very underrated and dangerous. Either way, both dudes have big matchups after this.
Diaz has nothing to lose. He got the biggest payday of his life. He takes on 12-day notice.
You know how many school lunches that buys in Stockton right now?
You know how much that just buys in Stockton?
There ain't much to buy in Stockton.
Here's the thing. People talk about Detroit going bankrupt. Stockton went bankrupt first. Just in case people didn't check the records.
Yeah, that's Compton Jr. right there.
And they have they're well, both cities are pretty bad, but all right. He is Colin Camper. He's running our Facebook page, facebook.com/Beyond the Cage podcast. Please like it today. Also, you're watching on YouTube, so if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel, youtube.com/Beyond the Cage podcast. He is Billy Brand. You can follow him on Twitter at WBrand21. And before we get to the last anything, got to thank our friends AJ Hiller, MMASignaturesUSA.com, of course, MMA for Life.ca, MMAinsiders.net. Our new friends, if you want to talk about 196 a little more in depth with some fellow fight fans, like MMA Fight Club on Facebook today as well. And of course, I'm your host, Jim Graham. You can follow me on Twitter at Jim Graham. Anything else you want to
Eric. Thank you, Eric, over from Glory.
Oh, absolutely. Eric Jackson,
Eric.
PR for Glory and Invicta.
Yeah. John and Cornelius, thank you. Tim Hughes, definitely a shout out.
Everyone over at Glory Kickboxing. Once again, kickboxing is alive and well, and go check out an event. Even if it's not Glory, go check out some kickboxing. Get into it.
All right. That is the show for this week, and thank you for listening to another edition of Beyond the Cage.